Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. As Rachel said, if you would like to put any questions into the questions segment of the GoToWebinar, we will try to take some breaks and answer questions. If not, we'll answer as many as we can at the end and follow up with anything that needs further clarification. I'm Rick Smith. This is Restaurants at the Edge, how evolving customer behaviors demand adaptable and unified solutions. Today, I'm going to go through a little bit of an introduction to ELO. We'll talk about the new normal and the uncertainty of that. A little bit about screen cleaning practices of your touchscreens and a little further than touchscreens itself. How self-service can act as your natural social distancing. How to keep curbside efficient. We know curbside is becoming tremendously important in our businesses. So what can we do to make that as efficient as possible? The simplification you can gain with unified architecture, and a little bit on employee safeties and health checks. So who is ELO? We've been providing industry best solutions for almost 50 years. I believe next year marks that year number 50, so we're excited about that. We actually invented the touchscreen in 1972. It's come a long way since then, but we were the inventors of it. And if you look on the left there, it's actually the diagrams that were submitted with our patent back in 1972. We also house a lot of industry and product experts. So more than just your hardware manufacturing company, we're there for the solution side of it and the consultation side of that with all of our customers as well. Not always is the right solution an ELO solution, but we still want to be able to direct you in the path that is the best for your business. We have many collaboration partners. So when it comes to the software side of things or the cloud level side of things, it may not always be something of ours that we're going to promote to you, but we have so many partners that we can bring to the table and give you options of paths of success. And again, we're an innovative and inventive manufacturer. Inventive, we invented the touchscreen. We continue to invent different things, whether it's Edge Connect peripherals for modular kiosk or just innovative solutions in terms of any industry like outdoor coming up as well. Our mission is to lead that transformation journey with purpose-built technology platforms. And our vision is to empower our customers to build their unique experiences in the restaurant. If you do those two things, the rest will take care of itself. And they're very similar in terminology because we are so focused on that one path. A little bit of power numbers. This by far is not an updated sheet, but just give you a little brief introduction to where you may come across ELO devices and not even know it. If you go to the post office and mail anything by stamps or do anything, that's being done via an ELO point of sale terminal. If you look at McDonald's, you're not going to see the ELO name anywhere, but in most cases, that is our touchscreen within that kiosk. Retail, restaurant, there's a whole list of them there, 25 million plus installs worldwide, and that number is just getting bigger every day. It wouldn't be a presentation without a logo slide. So here's our logo slide. It's, again, impossible to fit all the logos on this page. And the thing I like to pay attention to on our logo slide, more than the actual logos that are in there, is the categories of logos. So you can see, service automation when it comes to self-order, self-checkout, those kinds of things. And intelligent retail, when it could be like a part finding thing or a dressing room type environment or a price checker. Industrial automation, where we can be behind the scenes and at the manufacturing level. Banking and payments uses our devices in a lot of ways. And then intelligent healthcare, which is growing and growing every day. And the importance of that segment is becoming tremendously vital throughout the whole world, as we all know. But that's just to kind of show you our whole hashtag. ELO is everywhere. and across any of these segments plus more. Now I'll get into a little bit about the new normal and its uncertainty. So I've done a lot of these presentations, and I've been a part of a lot of these presentations, and myself and others, we always start off with the question, what is the new normal? I'm a little sick of the question. I expected the new normal to come a lot faster, but it's the reality we live in. So instead of asking what is the new normal, it came to me that we're asking the wrong question. The right question is, how does our business survive no matter what challenge is presented? If there's anything that's become obvious through this pandemic, is that we don't know what the next normal is. We don't know when we'll get to a new normal. Our new normal today is uncertainty. So we need to prepare our businesses to succeed with that uncertainty. It made me think of a quote from Bruce Lee. I'm a big Bruce Lee fan. So Bruce Lee had a famous quote, "You must be shapeless, formless like water. When you pour water into a cup, it becomes the cup. When you pour water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. When you pour water into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Water can drip and it can crash, become like water." And that's really an important saying to me. For Bruce, that was about his methodology, how he lived his life and how he practiced martial arts and became flexible and can adapt to any situation. But for us, it's really, the answer to the question, keeping our business operations fluid with the ability to adapt quickly and efficiently. So we don't know what that normal is. So let's just be ready to change. Let's create our technology and our business operations with the ability to change on a dime, because we're going to be required to do it. We have some advantages when it comes to that. Humans are habitual by nature. Convenience and safety are going to make the decisions every single time. As we're going through the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic, some of the things we're doing today for safety, curbside, are also becoming much more convenient for that end user. So some of the things that we're doing are going to stick around, and we need to be able to make sure we're doing those efficiently, because it's going to be a big segment of our business. The pandemic's also teaching every generation to become more digitally interactive. We used to have challenges as we thought through technology. Okay, 18 to 35 is going to use this technology, but is 50 to 65 going to use it? Well, the answer today is yes. Everybody's becoming more digitally interactive because we have to. People are ordering groceries online at a much higher rate than we ever thought possible. People are also using self-service kiosks at a higher rate than we thought, because there's a comfort level in having your own safe journey over speaking face-to-face with another human being at this time. Other things that are likely here to stay is cleanliness and sanitation. Not only doing it, but communicating it. Employee health checks are at least going to stick around for quite some time after we get out of the pandemic. And it's likely that they just stick around in general. I often sit back and wonder if insurance companies are going to get involved and make some of these health checks required, or at least give you a lower rate on doing them. And there could be some long-term regulations on social distancing as well. So I like to look at the operational 5 C's of success, as I referred to it. These are the C's that should be through our mind every day, and how we're dealing with our end users. So clean often, think about every touch point in the journey. So today we think about, okay, if we have a self-service kiosk, we got to make sure somebody's cleaning that, disinfecting it, doing everything to it. But don't forget about the door handle. Don't forget about the counters where the food's going to be put. Don't forget about the food trays. In many cases, food trays right now are a thing of the past, and everything's being put into a bag. But as those things come back online, we need to make sure that we are cleaning every surface and communicating the changes we're making with that cleaning regimen. So don't be afraid to put signage up that this is what we're doing to keep you safe. Let people see you clean. It's the best thing that you can do. knowing you're doing it and seeing you doing it are two separate things, and the public will become much more comfortable with our operations if they see us doing it. Be creative in your operational choices. Don't be afraid to do business a little differently. At the beginning of everything that's going on, there was a brand out in the West that wasn't set up for drive-through. They weren't really set up for curbside as much as they ever thought they would need to be. And then all of a sudden, all of our stores started closing. And so they took their point of sale terminals and they brought them outside and set them up in the parking lot, made them a kiosk. People drove up, they could step out of their car, they could place their order, get back in their car, and then somebody would carry the food out. Again, not your solution that is going to be long withstanding because of the difficulties sometimes moving that equipment in and out, but it was very creative and it really gained them a lot of business in the meantime while they were coming up with some other solutions. You want to make sure you give your customers control. And what I mean is everybody is going to have their version of a safe journey. And we should be enabling our customers to choose that safe journey on their own. So one person might be anxious for the world to open up back to normal, and they're going to look at what you're doing cleaning, and they're going to trust in the regulations that are out there, and all they want to do is get back to life. So they're going to come in, they're going to use a kiosk, they're going to stand in line, they're going to do whatever makes them feel what their old normal was. And then there's going to be other customers that are completely opposite of that. I like to refer to those as the customers that are going to live on the edge. And when I say live on the edge, I mean that quite literally. They're typically going to stay outside, be curbside or drive-through customers. If they do need to come indoors, they're going to likely not eat indoors. They're going to want a separated area where they can order. So if we can remove the self-service area or distance the self-service areas from the front counter, that'll go a long way in making that person comfortable. Travelers may need to eat indoors at some point, so socially distancing the tables, things like that, that the customer feels that they're in control of what that journey is and they can feel as safe as they need to be. And then where it's convenient to enable a contactless journey, you should. If you're not there on ordering yet with facial recognition or gesture recognition or any of that, that's okay. Keep working that path. But if you can make a portion of the journey contactless with contactless payment, maybe text receipts or options like that you can just remove some of the contact points, it's still going to go a long way in helping people to feel comfortable again as well. Real briefly, I'm going to touch on some cleaning methods for the ELO touchscreens. And by that, I'm going to tell you, you can go to our website. I have a link on the bottom there. If you go to the support page of our website, it'll be your first link on the cleaning regulations. This is updated often. So if there's new chemicals or anything, new regulations from CDC, we'll have them listed there. And so feel free to go and look at that. And as I said before, don't forget about the other surfaces. What really separates ELO from some of the other competitors is, I am not a doctor. I can't tell you the effectiveness of disinfecting and cleaning, but I can tell you that ELO hardware is purpose-built to be industrial. What that tells you is if CDC recommends to clean your counter surface X amount of times per hour, you should feel comfortable that you can also clean any of your ELO devices with that same regulation as any other surface in your store. Our touchscreens are edge-to-edge glass, makes it easier to clean. There's no crevices for things to get stuck or bacteria to hide. And you're not going to degrade the equipment by cleaning it as often as recommended by the authorities who should be doing their recommendation. So like we said, follow your CDC and your local recommendations. Think about things, short-term and long-term solutions. So in the short term, as I said, maybe facial recognition isn't ready for you, but you can put some hand sanitizers out there. You can advertise your cleaning methods. Maybe the midterm is some UV lights and some touchscreen overlays for antimicrobial protection. Maybe the long term is antimicrobial, antiviral protection built into the glass. We call that baked into the glass. And then some enhancements on camera technology that we can take more advantage of facial recognition and gesture recognition. And when it comes to microphones and some other hardware, we can make some progressions when it comes to audio recognition as well. Again, if I'm a customer, I should be able to choose if I want to touch my kiosk to place an order, if I would like to speak to place an order, or if I just want to do gestures. Loyalty integration can go a long way into that as well for saved orders or historical orders. Next, we'll go over a little bit of self-service, a safe way to social distance. You know, at its definition, self-service is natural social distancing. We're trying to socially distance ourselves from other humans. And if you have a device separated from the humans, we achieve one of those goals as long as we're keeping it disinfected as well. So all of the regulations today, I read this every day, CDC recommends limiting human-to-human contact. That's the top way to prevent the spread of any respiratory illness, which is what we have going on today. So screens will do that. It will limit. As China started to reopen from the early onset of COVID-19, the first things there, when the restaurants opened, they had regulations that you could not order human to human. It had to be via a screen, and the screens had to be moved to be X amount of distance apart. At the very beginning, all of the screens were moved to be on the exterior of the building, so you didn't even have to enter the building. There would be a barrier protecting you from entering the building, and your kiosk essentially would be outside. Another thing with the ELO PCAP screens is you have the ability to do the touch through glass. So if you have a single pane window on the side of your building, you could install a touch screen right against that window and touch it from the outside through the other glass. We're going to have to repurpose our staff. Something that's very evident coming back out as we're starting to reopen is that we were already short-staffed prior to everything that was going on, and we're definitely short-staffed now. We're just not getting back all of the employees, whether we can't get them back because of financial stipulations, or we just can't get them back due to labor shortage. A lot of folks just aren't wanting to come back yet. So we are going to be running short-handed. So self-service helps with that as well. We can take a role away from the counter and have fewer employees and still work on expediting food or making sure the drive-thru is taken care of. As much as we can get away from the front counter order, we have some employees that we can designate in other spots. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it'd be really nice for us to designate self-serve areas in the store. We've always said, where kiosks should be placed in a store, and we always tried to group them together so it'd be more of a statement. You want it to be in the customer path, and somewhat that's going to still be true. We still want it in the path. You still want it to be seen. You're still working to get your customer to adopt that because you're going to reap the benefits of higher ticket averages and those types of things. But maybe what we're going to do is have some in the path and some off to a side somewhere, so there is a buffer place to where we don't need to crowd people around. Maybe we're going to rethink the way we're doing double-sided kiosks. We can't necessarily eliminate them because we're limited by space as well. But maybe the design of them can still keep us 6 feet apart, or maybe in between the two, there is still some sort of a privacy shield to protect against the droplets going from one side to the other. Again, that's part of the whole be creative part of this journey as well. And then personalizing the journey. As we're doing this stuff, we can build in some AI and some facial recognition, some loyalty. And the more we do that, it's going to limit the time customers need to be in that zone. But also, it's going to give us the ability to specialize our menus and our efficiencies for the customer that's standing in front of us right now. I really think another thing we're going to see coming out of this is a lot of menu simplification as well. as we're looking to speed up processes, we may need to simplify some of our menus so we can concentrate on items that are quicker to build in and get people along the way as much as possible. So your self-service journeys, typically customer would come in, be recognized via face loyalty card opt-in. They could be provided order options for cross-sell and upsell, contactless payments, and text receipts. Those are things that are likely very doable today. And a little bit about the workflow and things that would come into play with that is we would socially distance the kiosk. We can separate them by the glass or plexiglass barriers. As we said, I think we might even get a little more creative and have those barriers with, they don't necessarily need to be clear in all cases. So maybe we can use some of that space for some static POP marketing. Facial recognition and loyalty, voice and gesture AI, different options for receipts. I go to a lot of restaurants today where you can actually scan a barcode on the receipt and pay and never have to hand your card over, never have to sign anything. Things like that will become more into play and even more efficient. I think we'll see a lot of additions of food lockers, and I think these can be inside and outside. So if we think about your traditional QSR that maybe has a delivery program, there's going to be delivery drivers that show up to the restaurant. They have to walk right to the same area as the regular customer base, either get the food from a person behind the counter, or sometimes there's some shelving where they're going to pick up that food and then they can go on their way. So a way we can separate them from the customers that need to be at that front counter to eat in or take out could be through some food lockers. And maybe those are somewhere separated in the store, or maybe they're just even lockers that can open to the outside of the building. So those delivery drivers don't even need to come into the building anymore. Again, improvements in loyalty integration will go a long way, and we want to make sure that we have crystal clear signage on what a customer should do and where they should go next. So if I place my order at this self-service kiosk, what is the next thing I do? Do I go stand here and look for an order ready board? Do I take a table tent and go right to a table? Have real clear signage and directions for the customer to help them feel comfortable in knowing that they're at least not wasting part of their journey. They're doing the right thing in order to make it as safe as possible. This is an example of some of the self-service solutions ELO has done. We have edge-connected devices, which can be an all-in-one touchscreen plus computer, as you see on the far left. It could be as simple as an edge-connected device on a pull mount. So this one has EMV on the right, it has a barcode scanner on the bottom, a status light on the top, and there's still one additional Edge Connect device left open on the left-hand side. All of those all-in-ones can have 4 Edge connected devices attached to them, top, bottom, left, and right. Next is a look that most people have become quite familiar with. That's the Wallaby. This is a floor-mounted Wallaby. There's a printer within the post there. It has EMV and a barcode scanner on the bottom. Again, it could have any of those other Edge connected devices, as in cameras, additional audio devices, ADA pads, anything. Also available as a counter mount. Next to that is just a little thinner version of that Wallaby with a backer board. So one of the things I was talking about is how you can do some marketing messages. Typically that was meant to advertise something or say order here, but I think you may gain some efficiencies and we may even increase the size of that for some social distancing practices as well as those droplets. And then we also get into the fully customized solution. So the example on the far right there is just a self-checkout, more made for grocery chains, but full self-checkout with scanners, belts, scales, cash recycling integrated. Just to give you a brief example of some of the things that ELO is doing and has done and part of being innovative and inventive is this will always be a growing list as well as we're releasing new things all the time. So now I'll take a quick break just to remind everybody, if you do have questions, please feel free just to put them in the questions part, and Rachel will stop me if needed or hold them off to the end and we can resume. Now I'll talk a little bit about curbside. So curbside, I'm calling it the preferred method in the new normal. At the beginning of the pandemic, my wife and I, weekly, while we were aching to go visit people, we would go to one of our favorite QSRs and order curbside, and we would sit in our car while our friend would sit in their car, and we could at least be almost together and still go out to eat together. Not quite what we were used to, but it was a great method in the meantime. So there's things that you need to do to make sure curbside's successful. You need to make sure your inventory is always going to be accurate. So if you're out of something, make sure whatever the application you're using to order curbside, whether that's mobile, whether that's outdoor kiosk, whether that's a third-party program, make sure that that is a seamless integration, that it'll know if something is unavailable. The worst case is to order something and then be told and have to have a human interaction to replace that item, when probably the reason you chose curbside was to eliminate that human interaction. Make sure you're doing a reassignment and retrainings for your associates. How do they thrive in a curbside world? What's the safe way to deliver food to the cars? Who's doing it? What else is that person responsible for? What should you have handy? Make sure you have wrapped straws or single serve condiments and things to limit the need for those trips out to the parking lot all the time. And make sure you have good technology, mobile devices that can be used for ordering and payment would be terrific to have. So it'll limit the chance of getting an order wrong. On the right-hand side, we just have some statistics from IHL saying that what they're predicting is curbside will become responsible for 22% of our transactions in a post-coronavirus environment. Now, if you add curbside and delivery, that's potentially 60% of our business that is not going to be in store or through the drive-through. We're used to a lot of our business not being in store because it's been through the drive-through, but even the drive-through business may go down some, being replaced by home delivery or curbside checkout. And below is just another chart from IHL on some typical margins that are lost when we're not ready to do curbside in the most efficient manner. So the one I like to look at there would be the click and collect, same day pickup. That's probably the most similar to what we'd be doing in the restaurant industry. And their findings are organizations that are not 100% prepared and doing it incorrectly, maybe losing up to 4.8% of their margin by having to go back and rework orders, or maybe not get as full an order as they could have. So much like the self-service slide, curbside guest experience is, there could be a walk-up kiosk, there could be a drive-up kiosk, maybe it was done via a mobile app or even a phone call, or just a regular website too. But there should be a way for the guest to be recognized. A lot of times that's done through geofencing or Bluetooth, depending on some other technology that's in there. As you're preparing for that next evolution of the technology, being built into your apps with the geofencing and Bluetooth. It could be something as simple as designated parking spots that sometimes even some human interaction via the app on what parking spot you're in can help. But as we build further through that, we can let the technology take a part of that away and become more accurate and faster. We can have chatbots, so sometimes maybe the employees that need to take those orders or do customer service for those bots, they don't necessarily need to be in-store employees. With the increase of internet availability and processing, those AI chatbots and even face-to-face via a screen solutions have become much more relevant today. It could be delivery at a vehicle for delivery drivers, or outdoor lockers, as I stated earlier. And payment options can be paid via mobile. They can be paid ahead of time. A lot of cases, they'll be paid via your loyalty program. Digital receipts go hand in hand with that. You can also, when we talk about the geofencing, there could be geofencing alerts. And I know especially in the coffee industry where temperature of those items is extremely important. Maybe you have some geofencing that's set up to alert you when customer A is 10 minutes from the store, 5 minutes from the store, or on site. I know a lot of times if I'm ordering an espresso, it's not an option always when I'm ordering it via an app, because it's so hard to predict when I'm going to arrive, and an espresso stays warm for about a minute and a half. So, if I had some geofencing or some Bluetooth set up that, hey, I know that Rick just arrived on site and he's in lane, time to make that espresso, then the full menu can become available as well. RFID could play a big role, and handhelds are going to be very important as well, handhelds and tablets. So Elo is releasing now a handheld. There will be a couple of different options available for you. They will have payment and scanning, always available with Wi-Fi, running off of the same architecture and chipset as the rest of the all-in-one devices. So that will be very nice and efficient as well. This is one of my favorite plans with the handheld is you could have a docking station for your handheld that can dock into a regular size monitor of your choice. And what that can really accomplish is, let's think about a point of sale being loaded onto a handheld's operating system now. And I put that in the docking station. I have my traditional point of sale as I always did. And now, something's happened and I need to move outside, or a school bus pulls in and I need people to focus in this area and take some orders or some line busting in the drive-through. I can literally just undock that handheld, walk away, and the point of sale is in my hand as I go. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the simplification of unified architecture. What we say is your business begins at the end point. If you look at the environment in the background here, likely today that looks a little bit differently. Those two kiosks on the left are probably a little more distance. The ones on the counter maybe have some barrier in between. Maybe there's even a reduction in number of point of sale systems. But the general idea is, all of that business on the edge and the end point. So with Elo, what we look at with unified architecture is having all of our options available in screen sizes from anywhere from 10 inches up to 65 inches. You can do that all without changing the software and the driver sets. Up to 22 inches, you can have an all-in-one, so your computer is actually part of the touch screen. Beyond that, we have compute devices, whether it's Android or Windows or Linux. You can have separate computers running touchscreens. Those touchscreens could be fully built touchscreens. They could be open frame fitting into an existing solution. But again, you don't need to change any of the chipsets or operating systems for those form factors. So what that does is even more efficient for outside of the actual restaurants. If we talk about our IT and our support organizations, now all of our solutions can be built with one driver set in mind. So we can build these, test them, deploy them, and not have to worry about, okay, this is KDS versus POS. What's the difference in drivers that I need to push down to that store? This is back of the house versus drive-through. What's the separate set of driver sets and applications that I can push down? In some cases, it'll be great for redundancy as well. There's nothing saying that you couldn't just push your self-service kiosk application down to one of your POS registers and turn it around. If there's a case where, hey, we're just going to be extremely short-staffed and we need an additional order point, we could go about it that way as well. When you take a look at how you can do those driver sets and those software applications, the way we used to think about everything was on the left there, the monolithic solutions. So we had a separate solution for in-store, maybe a separate one for digital inventory and even supply chain, all being built from usually different vendors on different hardware sets, sometimes even different operating systems. And then to the right, this is where a lot of the industry is already on the path of going. Some have completed that path, others are in the process of that, and some are just starting to consider it. So what you want is, in this very extremely simplified version, on the bottom there, we have our data master. This is going to be what encompasses everything we're doing in store, whether it's items, availability, pricing, customer information, and then being built from that are all these microservices and different solution applications, all leading to one unified customer experience. The way I like to look at this is in the early days where we started doing a lot more self-service and mobile ordering, a lot of times there was a separated digital menu, it was be referred as. Maybe it's a portion of your menu that not all items are available for some complexity reason that it shouldn't be offered on a website and it could only be offered in store. An espresso would be an example of that. So a lot of times we would take a POS database and POS menu and build out that completely separate digital only menu. But now thinking about things in this more unified way, all of that information can be housed in one place and pushed just to the correct device. And through typically drag and drop utilities, you can change what those applications or options are within those devices themselves. And what you can get from that is a more personalized experience. So we want to personalize experiences because that's what our customers want. But we also want to personalize our experiences because that gives us more information. And with more information, we can make better offerings and better decisions. So if we can personalize and say, we know this is Rick and we know this is typically what he likes, so we're going to show him this, but this is typically also something that goes well with that, so we can make that offer as well. And then you're going to learn from whether I'm accepting, whether I'm browsing some other things, whether I'm putting different things in my cart. And we can experiment that way to say, okay, if he's typically an ostrich burger guy, maybe I'm going to offer him a bison burger and see if that's something that sparks interest. With those experiments, we can take that personalization, that experimental data, and start doing some real machine learning and maybe optimizing our kitchens. Early on in my career, I worked on a product that was a kitchen production management system, and it was probably too early for what we were trying to do, and we weren't prepared to meet the market fully with the needs. But if we think about all the additional information we have today, that really becomes a reality, to where you take these build-to charts that say it's 12:15, you should have 4 baskets of fries and 6 burgers on the grill cooking. Now we can take that machine learning and optimize what we're actually calling for, and have that smart decision be made throughout the day. And all in all, that can save us a lot of money on both supply chain and waste. So we're not going to be over ordering or under ordering, and hopefully our food costs can go down because we're going to start wasting less as well. So the platform behind that, there's many of them. For us, we call it EloView. So what you do is you take all those multimedia, whether it's just digital menu board content, whether it's a full kiosk application or POS application, whether it's just something as simple as a menu change, anything like that from the world. And via EloView's cloud interface, you can literally drag and drop to any or all of your physical locations. So as simple as drag and drop is, you can change the content or even application of any of the Elo devices that are out there in the world. So now I'll go a little bit into back of the house type of stuff. Employee safety, how do we make our workplaces a safer place? So a lot of discussions today go around health screening. We do a ton of health screening stuff in the healthcare industry, but we're seeing a lot of trending of doing just as much of it through restaurant, retail, corporate offices. Today, anywhere we go, we're potentially having our temperature taken. We're definitely being asked all of the COVID-19 questions to gain admittance into some sort of a building. I don't know that we'll ever be 100% required to do that for our customers, but it's very likely that we are required to do that for our employees. So we do have health screening kiosks that have a thermal detector built into the camera, so you can come in, have a contactless journey to where it can ask you those questions that you decide are important questions. You know, maybe have you been around anybody that's been known to have been infected? Have you traveled to these areas? Have you had a fever above such and such? Or even take the temperature right there. You know, that could be integrated into other aspects of a restaurant as well. So maybe that's part of the time clock application as well. So in order to clock in, you need to do those things. And if a temperature is present, it can alert whoever, store manager, that can make that decision on whether somebody should be gained admittance into the store. I like to think about that one step further than even our employees. Think about all the delivery drivers that are delivering, you know, bread or meat or cups, plates, whatever it is, changing the carpets. I think, you know, it'd be very wise for us to start ensuring that those folks that are entering our establishments are safe as well, and keeping us safe from the thousands of people they've interacted in throughout the day as well. We're going to see a lot of changes to public spaces to make them more socially distant and safe, including video conferencing. I spoke about video conferencing a little bit before. You know, this is more so originally thought of in something for our corporate suite of products for at-home video conferencing, but I think it still has a real play in the restaurant industry as well. If we think about meetings that district managers are going to have with store managers, or someone at corporate's going to gather all the district managers, and today we see that. We walk into our restaurants and that's happening all the time, where there's, you know, 8, 9 people around a couple tables going over everything that's going in their area. And that could very well be something that now everybody's in the back of the house with a video conferencing system, and they can have those meetings a little bit more remote. And on the bottom there, that could even be being done from their houses as well. So this is kind of the path that would be taken in that scenario. So somebody walks up to the door, maybe they're going to scan a badge, maybe it's facial recognition to gain access or whatever it is. And then there's options. We can take a temperature right there. If it's above whatever number you establish as safe, it can alert and deny entrance. If it's below your threshold, then it can be green and allow entrance. If you're not going to go the path of the camera to take temperature, then it can simply just go to what we refer to as ELO access. It's the questionnaire that will ask the appropriate questions, and depending on those answers, determine what the next step is in that journey. Completely can be customized to your needs as well. Here's an example of what that would look like. We have the kiosk on a pedestal, optional printer. Sometimes it will want to print a label or a receipt style piece of paper that, it could be something that sticks on to your shirt or to your badge to show you have access to be within the building. Again, it's an option. It could have the temperature sensor attached to it. You could have your custom branding with that backer board, the PC, and if there are other needs, as in RF or a barcode scanner for utilization, again, it's a traditional Edge Connect device, so it could be connected to any of the edges as well. The screens are available as power over Ethernet as well. Sometimes these are going to locations that a data run could be, or a power run could be difficult. So you do have that option if you need to limit the runs of cabling you're doing. And that takes us through our presentation for today. I really do thank everybody for their time. If there are any questions, Rachel will jump back on and let me know.
Hi, Rick. No questions coming in from the audience. I think we're all set.
Great. Well, my email is on this last slide, so if anybody does want to jot that down and thinks of any questions later, please feel free to shoot them out, and I will make sure we get the answers. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.